The huge space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. Inside its metal walls, creatures from hundreds of different worlds gathered for an emergency meeting. The air smelled strange, mixing the scents of aliens who breathed different gases and ate different foods. Ambassador Zektar walked slowly into the main meeting hall. His green, scaly skin looked pale and sick. His large yellow eyes darted around the room like a frightened animal. The other aliens watched him with curiosity. They had never seen a Vorthan warrior look so afraid. Zektar had been gone for 3 years. His people thought he was dead. His war fleet had attacked a human colony world called New Texas. Everyone expected him to return as a hero with stories of victory and slaves. Instead, he came back alone, changed, and speaking words that made no sense. Elder Counselor Vexani of the Crystalline Collective sat at the center of the room. Her body was made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. She was old, older than most civilizations, and she had seen many wars. But she had never seen a warrior return from battle looking like Zektar. "Speak, Zektar," she said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Tell us what happened to your fleet. Tell us what the humans did to you." Zektar stood in the center of the room. All around him, aliens leaned forward to hear his words. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had multiple eyes or breath through gills. But they all wanted to know the same thing. What made the humans so dangerous? "I came here to warn you," Zektar said. His voice shook like leaves in a storm. "The humans are not what we thought they were. They are not weak. They are not simple. They are something much worse." General Krex of the hegemony of Scar laughed. He was a huge creature with thick armor covering his body. His people were known across the galaxy as the greatest warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved millions of beings. "One small human colony scared you?" Krex asked. "My scouts tell me humans are soft. They cry when they're young. They waste resources on the weak and old. They cannot even agree among themselves about simple things." "That is what I thought too," Zektar replied. "That is why I attacked them. I brought 50 ships and 10,000 warriors. We destroyed their cities in hours. We killed many of their people. We took prisoners. We thought we had won." "Then what happened?" asked Ambassador Thelanox of the Aquatic Syndicate. Her fish-like body floated in a tank of water. Her gills moved. Quickly as she breathed, Zektar was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the floor, remembering things he wished he could forget. "They came for us," he said finally. "Not with weapons. Not with armies. They came with something else. Something I had never seen before." "What?" Votsani asked. "They came with their stories." The room fell silent. Many of the aliens looked confused. Stories were not weapons. Stories could not stop plasma cannons or break through armor. "I do not understand," said Counselor Murthic of the Hive Mind. His insect-like body clicked and buzzed as he spoke. "How can stories be dangerous?" Zektar looked up at him. For the first time, the other aliens could see tears in his yellow eyes. "Because they make you understand," he whispered. "They make you see what you have done? And once you see it, you can never unsee it." He began to pace back and forth, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. "After we conquered New Texas, we waited for the humans to surrender. We expected them to beg for mercy. Instead, they sent us a message. They wanted to trade prisoners. They said they had captured some of my warriors who were injured in the battle. A normal exchange," General Krex said. "What was strange about that?" "The place they chose for the meeting," Zektar replied. "They did not choose a military base or a government building. They chose a place they called a memorial center. I thought it was just a name. I was wrong." Zektar stopped pacing and faced the assembled aliens. The building was huge, made of white stone and glass. As we approached, I saw statues of humans. Everywhere, men, women, children, all of them looked sad. All of them looked like they were remembering something painful. The humans were waiting for us at the entrance. Their leader was an old man named Paul Mitchell. He had gray hair and kind eyes. He welcomed us like guests, not enemies. He offered us food and drink. He spoke to us in our own language. Then he said something that confused me. He said, "Before we discuss your warriors, we would like to show you something. We would like to show you why we built this place." Zektar's voice grew quieter. The other aliens had to lean forward to hear him. He led us inside. The walls were covered with pictures. Thousands and thousands of pictures. They showed humans in pain, humans suffering, humans dying. But these were not pictures of war. These were pictures of humans hurting other humans. "I do not understand," said Vexani. "Why would they show you their own people suffering?" "Because," Zektar said, "they wanted us to understand what suffering looks like. They wanted us to see pain through their eyes. They showed us pictures of their wars, their genocides, their mistakes. They showed us the faces of children who died because of hatred. They showed us the tears of parents who lost their young. And then," he continued, "they showed us new pictures. Pictures from New Texas, pictures of the humans we had killed, pictures of the families we had destroyed, pictures of the children who would never grow up because of what we did." The room was completely silent now. Even General Krex had stopped laughing. "Each picture had a name," Zektar said. "Each name had a story. They told us about every human who died in our attack. They told us about their dreams, their hopes, their fears. They told us about the people who loved them and the people who would miss them. They made us sit in a room and listen to the families of the dead. The families did not scream at us or curse us. They just talked. They talked about their loved ones. They showed us drawings their children had made. They played recordings of their voices. They shared their memories." Zektar's voice broke completely now. He could barely speak. "There was a little girl named Emma. She was 5 years old. She loved to draw pictures of flowers. Her mother showed us every picture Emma had ever drawn. She told us about Emma's favorite toy, a stuffed animal shaped like a creature from Earth called a rabbit. She told us about Emma's dreams of becoming a teacher. Emma died in our attack. She was hiding in a school when our bombs fell. Her mother found her body 3 days later, still holding her rabbit. The humans made us understand that Emma was not just a number in a casualty report. She was a person with thoughts and feelings and dreams. She was someone's daughter, someone's world, someone's everything, and Emma was just one of thousands." General Krex stood up suddenly. His armor clanked as he moved. "This is weakness," he declared. "The humans tried to make you soft with their emotional manipulation. A true warrior does not let such things affect him." Zektar looked at him with sad eyes. "That is what I thought too, General. That is what I told myself for weeks. But the humans were patient. They did not force us to feel anything. They just showed us the truth. Day after day, week after week, they showed us the faces of the people we had killed. They told us their stories. They helped us understand what we had taken from the universe. And slowly we began to change. We began to see that every being we had ever killed in battle was like Emma. Every being had a family, had dreams, had value. We began to understand that we were not warriors. We were murderers. The humans never hurt us. They never threatened us. They never even raised their voices. They just helped us see the truth about ourselves. And that truth was more terrible than any torture." Zektar looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at him. "That is why I am here to warn you. The humans do not fight like we do. They do not conquer like we do. They do something much worse. They make you understand what you have done. And once you understand, you can never go back to being what you were before. Do not attack the humans," he said, "because they will never release you. Not because they will imprison your body, but because they will free your mind from the comfortable lies that let you sleep at night. And that freedom is a prison from which no warrior ever escapes." General Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fist. Through the huge window, he could see his war fleet stretching across space like a dark cloud. 500 ships filled with the best warriors of the hegemony of Scar. Each ship carried weapons that could turn planets into dust. General, his communications officer said, we are approaching the human colony of Haven's Rest. Our scouts report light defenses. Maybe 20 small ships and some ground weapons? Krex smiled, showing his sharp teeth. 20 ships against 500. The humans are even weaker than I thought. His second-in-command, Captain Rex Newell, stood beside him. Rex Newell was younger than Krex, but just as eager for battle. Sir, should we demand their surrender first? It would save time. No, Krex said. Ambassador Zektar S. words have spread doubt among our people. Some warriors whisper that humans are dangerous. We must show them that humans bleed and die like any other species. We attack without warning. The planet Haven's Rest grew larger. In the window, it was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green continents. Cities sparkled like jewels on the surface. Krex had destroyed many worlds, but this one looked peaceful, almost innocent. Begin the attack, Krex ordered. The Scarfleet opened fire. Plasma cannons lit up space with deadly light. The human ships tried to fight back, but they were too few and too small. Within minutes, most of the human fleet was destroyed. The surviving ships fled toward the planet. Land the troops, Krex commanded. Take the cities quickly. I want prisoners and I want them alive. We need humans to question about their defenses. On the planet's surface, the city of New Hope was burning. The Scar warriors moved through the streets like a deadly storm. They were fast, strong, and protected by armor that human weapons could barely scratch. But something was wrong. Captain Rex Newell noticed it first. General, the humans are fighting strangely. What do you mean? Krex asked through his communicator. They fight hard, but they also keep running to certain buildings. And they carry small devices. They point them at us constantly. Weapons? Krex asked. No, sir. They look like recording devices. They are filming everything. Krex frowned. Why would humans waste time making recordings during a battle? It made no sense. In the city's main hospital, Dr. Lisa Harper was trying to save as many lives as possible. She was a small woman with brown hair and tired eyes. She had been working for 18 hours straight, treating wounded civilians. Doctor, a nurse called out, the aliens are at the front door. Lisa looked around the hospital room. Dozens of injured humans lay on beds and on the floor. Many of them were children. She pulled out a small recording device and turned it on. My name is Dr. Lisa Harper, she said into the device. It is day 1 of the attack on Haven's Rest. I am recording this in New Hope General Hospital. The Scar forces have surrounded the building. We have 47 wounded civilians here, including 16 children. The hospital doors exploded inward. Scar warriors rushed inside, their weapons ready. They were huge creatures, each one over 8 feet tall. Their armor was black and covered with spikes. Their faces were hidden behind metal masks that made them look like demons. Please, Lisa said, stepping forward with her hands raised. These people are wounded. They cannot fight. They need medical help. The lead Scar warrior looked at her. Behind his mask, she could see glowing red eyes. You are now prisoners of the hegemony of Scar. You will come with us. The wounded cannot be moved, Lisa said. They will die. Then they die, the warrior replied. Lisa kept her recording device running. She held it low, trying to hide it from the Scar. As they forced the wounded humans to stand, she recorded everything. The cries of pain, the tears of children, the faces of people who knew they were about to die. Across the city, similar scenes played out. Humans were captured, killed, or forced to flee. But everywhere someone was recording. Hidden cameras captured the destruction. Survivors with small devices filmed the Scar warriors. Even people who were dying used their last moments to record what was happening. In the city's school, teacher Mary Johnson gathered her students in the basement. She had 30 children with her, all between 6 and 12 years old. They were scared and crying for their parents. Miss Johnson, 8-year-old Billy asked, are the monsters going to hurt us? Mary knelt down beside him. She pulled out her phone and started recording. Billy, I want you to tell me about your family. Tell me about your mom and dad. Why? Billy asked. Because Mary said. People need to know who you are. They need to know that you are not just a number. You are Billy Thompson. You love dinosaurs and ice cream. You want to be a firefighter when you grow up. One by one, she recorded each child talking about their lives. Their hopes, their dreams, their favorite things. She uploaded each recording to the school's emergency transmission system, sending them out to space where human ships could receive them. The Scar Warriors found the school an hour later. They broke down the doors and searched every room. When they found the basement, Mary stood in front of her students. "Take me," she said. "Leave the children alone." The Scar leader laughed. "You are all prisoners now. You will work for the hegemony." As they dragged Mary and the children away, her phone continued recording. It captured the sound of children crying. It captured their voices calling for their parents. It captured everything. Meanwhile, in space, Captain Jake Morrison commanded the human cruiser Liberty Bell. His ship was badly damaged, but his crew was still alive. His communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Patterson, was working frantically at her station. "Captain," she said, "we are receiving hundreds of transmissions from the planet. The civilians are sending us recordings of the attack." "Are they asking for help?" Jake asked. "No, sir, they are sending us evidence. They are documenting everything the Scar are doing. Every death, every prisoner taken, every act of cruelty." Jake looked at the main screen. It showed the planet below, burning under Scar weapons. His home was being destroyed, his people were being killed or captured, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "Sir," Lieutenant Patterson said, "we also have a direct transmission from Dr. Lisa Harper. She's in the main hospital." "Put her on screen," Jake ordered. Lisa's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Jake could see Scar Warriors forcing wounded humans to stand. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were filled with determination. "Captain Morrison," she said, "I am transmitting all our recordings to your ship. Make sure they reach Earth. Make sure people see what happened here. Make sure they remember our names." "Doctor, we are trying to organize a rescue mission," Jake said. "No," Lisa replied. "Do not risk more lives. We knew this might happen when we chose to live on the frontier. But do not let our deaths be meaningless. Show the galaxy what the Scar really are." The transmission cut off as Scar Warriors dragged Lisa away. Jake stared at the empty screen, his hands clenched into fists. "Lieutenant Patterson," he said, "transmit everything to Earth. Send it to the government, to the news networks, to everyone." "Priority Alpha." "Yes, sir." On his flagship, General Krex watched the final resistance collapse. The humans had fought bravely, but they were simply outmatched. In 12 hours, his forces had conquered the entire planet. Thousands of humans were dead, and thousands more were prisoners. "A complete victory," Captain Rexnell said. "The humans were as weak as we expected." "Yes," Krex agreed, "but something bothers me. Why did they spend so much time recording everything? What was the point?" "Perhaps they hoped to use the recordings to ask for mercy," Rexnell suggested. Krex nodded, but he still felt uneasy. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen an enemy spend their final moments making recordings instead of fighting or fleeing. It seemed like a waste of time. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth. The humans want to negotiate." Krex smiled. "Already? They surrender faster than I expected." "They are asking for a prisoner exchange, sir. They say they have captured some of our warriors who were injured in the battle." "Impossible," Rexnell said. "We did not lose any warriors." "Check the casualty reports," Krex ordered. A few minutes later, Rexnell returned with a confused expression. "Sir, we did lose 17 warriors. They were in ships that crashed on the planet. I assumed they were dead. The humans saved them?" Krex asked. "It appears so, sir. They are offering to trade them for some of our prisoners." Krex thought for a moment. 17 warriors were not important, but the principle mattered. The Scar did not leave their people behind, even if they were just wounded. "Where do they want to meet?" he asked. "They suggest a place on Earth called the Center for Galactic Understanding." "Never heard of it," Krex said. Probably a government building. Accept their offer. We will take a small force to Earth and collect our warriors. It will be good to see the human homeworld before we conquer it. As the message was sent, Krex felt satisfied. The humans had proven to be as weak as he expected. Soon, the entire galaxy would see that the Scar were the true masters of war. But deep in space, human ships were carrying the recordings from havens. Rest back to Earth, videos of children crying for their parents. Images of doctors trying to save lives while warriors destroyed everything around them. Sound recordings of teachers comforting students in their final moments. On Earth, people watched the recordings and wept. General Krex stepped off his shuttle and looked around at the mountains of Earth. The air was thin and cold, and strange white flakes fell from the sky. His people called it snow, but he had never seen it before. The Scar homeworld was hot and dry, covered in deserts and volcanoes. "This is the place?" Captain Rex Newell asked, checking his scanner. "It looks like a mountain with buildings carved into it." "The humans said to meet at the Center for Galactic Understanding," Krex replied. "I expected a government building or a military base. This looks like something else." They walked toward the entrance with 20 Scar warriors following behind them. The building was huge, made of white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. As they got closer, Krex could see strange symbols carved into the walls. They looked like writing, but in many different languages. At the entrance, a human waited for them. He was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore simple clothes and carried no weapons. When he saw the Scar approaching, he smiled and walked forward. "Welcome to Earth," the man said in perfect Scar language. "I am Paul Mitchell, director of the center." "Thank you for coming," Krex was surprised. Most humans he had met spoke through translation devices. This one spoke their language like he had been born to it. "I am General Krex of the Hegemony of Scar," Krex said. "I have come for my warriors, of course. They are safe and well cared for. But before we complete the exchange, I would like to show you something. I think you will find it interesting." "We did not come here for a tour," Captain Rexnell said. Paul nodded. "I understand. You are busy warriors with important duties. But this will only take a short time, and I believe it will help you understand why we built this place." Krex looked at the building again. Something about it made him feel uneasy. The carved symbols seemed to watch him like eyes. The white stone looked like bones. "Very well," he said, "but make it quick." Paul led them through the entrance. Inside, the building was even larger than it appeared from outside. The ceiling was so high that Krex could barely see it. The walls were covered with pictures, thousands of them, and in the center of the room stood a huge statue of a human child holding a flower. "This is our memorial hall," Paul explained. "It contains the history of what we call the Great Learning." "What is the Great Learning?" Krex asked. "It is the most important lesson our species ever learned," Paul replied. "We learned that every life has value. Every death has meaning. Every choice has consequences." He led them to the first wall. It was covered with old pictures showing humans fighting other humans. The images were terrible. Cities burning, people running, children crying, but these were not recent pictures. They looked very old. "These are from our early wars," Paul said. "Thousands of years ago, we fought each other over land, resources, and beliefs. We killed millions of our own people. We thought we were strong. We thought we were right. All species fight," Krex said. "It is natural." "Yes," Paul agreed. "But we learned something from our fighting. We learned that being strong is not the same as being right. We learned that victory is not the same as justice." He led them to another wall. These pictures showed humans helping other humans. Doctors treating wounded enemies. Soldiers sharing food with prisoners. People rebuilding destroyed cities. "After each war, we tried to understand what we had done wrong," Paul continued. "We studied the faces of those we killed. We learned their names and their stories. We built memorials to remember their pain." "Why?" Captain Rexnell asked. "Why remember the weak and the defeated?" Paul stopped walking and looked at him. "Because they were not weak. They were people, just like you, just like me. They had families who loved them. They had dreams and hopes. They had value that had nothing to do with strength. They continued walking through the hall. The pictures changed as they moved. The old wars gave way to newer conflicts. The clothing and weapons changed, but the pain remained the same. Always the same faces of suffering. Always the same tears of loss. We realized, Paul said, that every person we killed in war was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. We began to understand that our victories were built on the graves of innocent people. That is the way of war, Krex said. The strong survive, the weak perish. Is it? Paul asked. Or is that just what we tell ourselves to feel better about the killing? They reached the end of the hall. Here the pictures stopped. Instead, there was a single door marked with strange symbols. What is beyond this door? Krex asked. Paul's expression grew sad. The reason you are here, General. The reason we asked you to come. He opened the door. Beyond it was another hall, but this one was different. The walls were covered with moving pictures, videos that showed recent events. And the faces in these videos were familiar. They were the faces of the humans from Haven's Rest. This is our newest exhibit, Paul said quietly. We call it the Haven's Rest Memorial. It tells the story of what happened when your forces attacked our colony. Krex stared at the screens. He saw the battle from a different angle now. Not from the bridge of his ship, but from the ground. From the perspective of the humans who died, on one screen, he saw Dr. Lisa Harper in the hospital. She was trying to save a young boy who had been wounded in the bombing. The boy was calling for his mother, but she was dead. Lisa held his hand as he died, whispering words of comfort. On another screen, he saw teacher Mary Johnson with her students. The children were scared and crying. Mary was singing to them, trying to keep them calm as the building shook from explosions. Why? Are you showing us this? Krex asked. Because, Paul said, we want you to understand what you did. We want you to see the faces of the people you killed. We want you to know their names and their stories. He led them to a wall covered with photographs. Hundreds of them. Each one showed a human who had died in the attack. Under each picture was a name and a short story. Emma Wilson, age 5. She loved to draw pictures of flowers. She wanted to be a teacher like her mother. Robert Chun, age 34. He was a farmer. He grew food for the whole colony. He had 3 children. Sarah Davis, age 16, she played music and wrote songs. She dreamed of traveling to other worlds. Krex found himself reading the stories despite himself. Each one was different, but they all described real people with real lives. People who had been alive one day and dead the next because of his orders. This is manipulation, Captain Rexnell said. You are trying to make us feel guilty for doing our duty. No, Paul replied. We are trying to help you understand the truth. The truth is that those people were not your enemies. They were just people living their lives. They had no quarrel with you. They posed no threat to your people. He led them to another section of the memorial. Here the walls showed videos of the prisoners being taken. Krex watched himself giving orders to his warriors. He saw humans being dragged from their homes. He saw children separated from their parents. Your 17 warriors who were injured in the battle, Paul said. We found them in the wreckage of their ships. They were unconscious and badly hurt. Do you know what we did? You took them prisoner, Krex said. We saved their lives, Paul corrected. Our doctors worked for days to heal their wounds. We gave them our own blood when they needed transfusions. We sat with them when they were afraid. We treated them like we would treat our own people. Why? Krex asked. Because that is what we learned from our great learning, Paul said. We learned that every life has value. Even the lives of our enemies, even the lives of those who hurt us. They walked through more rooms, each one showing different aspects of the attack, the destruction of the cities, the capture of civilians, the separation of families. But mixed in with the scenes of violence were other images. Images of humans helping wounded Scar warriors. Images of human doctors treating Scar prisoners with kindness. You could have let our warriors die, Krex said slowly. Yes, Paul agreed. But that would have made us no better than those who kill without reason. We chose to save them because we believe that every being deserves a chance to understand the truth. They reached the center of the memorial. Here stood another statue. This one showing a human woman kneeling beside a wounded scar warrior. The woman was offering the warrior water, and the warrior was reaching out to accept it. This statue represents our choice, Paul said. We could choose revenge, or we could choose understanding. We chose understanding. General Krex stood in front of the statue for a long time. Around him, the videos continued to play. The faces of the dead continued to watch him. The stories of their lives continued to echo in his mind. What do you want from us? He asked finally. We want you to understand, Paul said. We want you to see what you have done. We want you to know that those people were not numbers in a military report. They were individuals with hopes and dreams and families who loved them. And then you can choose, Paul said. You can choose to continue being warriors who kill without thought. Or you can choose to become something better. Something that honors the lives you have taken. Krex looked around the memorial hall. Every wall showed the faces of the dead. Every screen told the story of a life ended too soon. Every photograph reminded him that his victory had been built on the graves of innocent people. For the first time in his life, General Krex began to understand what the humans meant by the Great Learning. 3 months had passed since General Krex and his warriors arrived at the Center for Galactic Understanding. They were not prisoners in the way they understood the word. They had comfortable rooms, good food and medical care. They could walk around the facility freely. They could speak to each other whenever they wanted, but they could not leave. This is still a prison, Captain Rexnell said as he paced around their shared room. They keep us here against our will. No, Krex replied, looking out the window at the mountains. They keep us here until we understand. There is a difference. Every day was the same. They would wake up, eat breakfast, and then attend what the humans called sessions. These were not interrogations or torture. They were conversations with different humans who had been affected by the attack on Haven's Rest. Today, Krex was scheduled to meet with Margaret Stone. She was a small woman with gray hair and sad eyes. She had been meeting with him once a week. For 2 months. Each time she told him about her son Danny, Krex sat in a comfortable chair across from Margaret. Between them was a small table with pictures on it. All the pictures showed a young human male with bright eyes and a big smile. Danny was 23 when he died, Margaret said, picking up one of the pictures. He was a teacher at the elementary school in New Hope. He loved working with children. Krex had heard this story many times before. At first he had tried not to listen. He had told himself that this was human weakness, human manipulation. But Margaret never seemed angry. She never accused him of anything. She just talked about her son. He wanted to be a teacher since he was very young, Margaret continued. When he was 8 years old, he told me he wanted to help children learn about the stars. He said the universe was too big and beautiful for anyone to explore alone. She showed Krex another picture. This one showed Danny with a group of young children. They were all looking up at the sky, and Danny was pointing at something above them. This was taken a week before your attack, Margaret said. Danny was teaching his students about different planets. He told them that somewhere out there, other intelligent beings were looking up at their own stars and wondering about life in the universe. Krex felt something uncomfortable in his chest. He tried to ignore it, but it would not go away. He died trying to protect his students, Margaret said. When your warriors entered the school, Danny stood in front of the children. He told your warriors that the children were not combatants. He asked them to let the children go. What happened? Krex asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. Your warrior shot him, Margaret said simply. Danny fell down in front of his students. The last thing he saw was their frightened faces. Krex closed his eyes. He remembered getting the report about the school. His warriors had said they encountered resistance from armed humans. They had not mentioned that the humans were teachers. Protecting children, I am sorry, Krex said. The words came out before he could stop them. Margaret smiled sadly. I know you are, General. That is why these sessions are working. Down the hall, Captain Rex Newell was having his own session with Dr. Nathan Clark. Nathan was a psychologist who specialized in helping people deal with guilt and trauma. But today, Rex Newell was not talking about feelings. He was helping to build something. Why do we have to do this? Rex Newell asked as he placed another stone in the memorial wall. This is not warriors' work. Because, Nathan said, every stone you place represents a life that was lost. When you touch each stone, you remember that these were real people, not just numbers. Rex Newell picked up the next stone. On it was carved a name, Emma Wilson, age 5. He had placed stones for Emma many times before. Each time, he remembered more about what Nathan had told him about her. Emma had loved to draw pictures of flowers. She had a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Hoppy. She had wanted to be a teacher like her mother. She had died in the bombing of the children's hospital, where she was being treated for a broken arm. She was just a child, Rex Newell said quietly. Yes, Nathan agreed. A child who never got the chance to grow up because of choices made by adults. Rex Newell placed the stone carefully in the wall. His hands were shaking slightly. For the past month, his hands had been shaking whenever he worked on the memorial. Nathan said it was normal. It meant he was beginning to understand. This is not how wars are supposed to work, Rex Newell said. We are warriors, we fight and win, or we die in battle. We do not sit around thinking about our enemies' feelings. Maybe that is the problem, Nathan suggested. Maybe treating other beings as enemies instead of people is what causes so much suffering. In another room, Lieutenant Vaxton was meeting with Carol Hayes, a military liaison from the Human Defense Forces. Carol had lost her husband. In the attack on Haven's Rest, he had been a civilian engineer working on the colony's water system. I do not understand, Vaxton said. Your husband was not a soldier. Why was he on a military target list? He was not, Carol replied. Your forces bombed the water treatment plant because it was infrastructure? My husband was there trying to fix a broken pump so the children in the hospital would have clean water. Carol showed Vaxton a picture of her husband, Tom. He was a large man with kind eyes and work-stained hands. In the picture, he was hugging Carol and laughing about something. Tom was not a warrior, Carol said. He was a builder. He spent his life making things that helped people. Clean water, safe bridges, homes for families. He never hurt anyone. But he was supporting the colony's war effort, Vaxton protested. By providing clean water to children, Carol asked. By fixing broken pipes? By making sure hospitals had electricity? If that is war, then every being who helps others is a soldier. Vaxton was quiet for a long time. He had never thought about the difference between soldiers and civilians before. In Scar culture, everyone was expected to fight when needed. The idea that some people might choose to spend their lives helping instead of fighting was strange to him. Why do you not hate? Me? He asked finally. I did, Carol admitted. For a long time, I hated all of you. I wanted revenge. I wanted you to suffer like I was suffering. What changed? I realized that hating you would not bring Tom back, Carol said. But helping you understand might prevent other people from losing the ones they love. As the weeks went by, the Scar Warriors began to change. It was not obvious at first. Small things. Rex Newell stopped boasting about his victories in previous battles. Vaxton began asking questions about human families and how they worked. Lieutenant Crowanek started reading books about human history, but the biggest change was in General Krex himself. He had begun having nightmares. In his dreams, he saw the faces of the people who died at Haven's Rest. He heard their voices calling out for help. He saw children crying for parents who would never come home. This is what they planned, he told Rex Newell one evening. The humans are not trying to hurt our bodies. They are trying to change our minds. Is it working? Rex Newell asked Krx thought about Margaret Stone and her endless patience as she told him about her son. He thought about the memorial wall he helped build every day, placing stones for people whose names he was learning to remember. He thought about the videos he watched each evening, showing the lives of the people who died because of his orders. Yes, he admitted, it is working. What do we do? Rex Newell asked. I do not know, Krex replied. I do not know how to be what I was before. I cannot forget the faces I have seen. I cannot pretend that those people did not matter. That night, Krex stood in front of the main memorial wall. It was almost finished now. Thousands of stones, each one representing a life lost at Haven's Rest, each stone placed by the hands of the warriors who had taken those lives. Paul Mitchell found him there, standing quietly in the darkness. Having trouble sleeping, General? Paul asked. Every night, Krex replied. I see their faces when I close my eyes. I hear their voices. How do you live with such knowledge? It is not easy, Paul admitted. But the guilt serves a purpose. It reminds us to make better choices next time. What if there is no next time? Krex asked. What if we can never go back to being what we were? Paul smiled sadly. Then you have learned the most important lesson of all. You have learned that some things, once broken, cannot be put back together. But from the pieces, you can build something new, something better. Krex looked at the wall of stones. Each one represented a choice he could not take back. Each one reminded him of the pain he had caused. But each one also reminded him that he had the power to choose differently in the future. We cannot leave here, can we? He asked. You can leave whenever you want, Paul said. The question is, will you want to? Krex understood what Paul meant. The humans had not locked their bodies in a prison. They had opened their minds to a truth that could never be closed again. And that truth would follow them wherever they went for the rest of their lives. No, Krex said quietly. I do not think we will ever truly leave this place, Paul nodded. Welcome to the great learning, General. Welcome to understanding what it means to be truly human. 2 years had passed since General Krex and his warriors first arrived at the Center for Galactic Understanding. Now they stood at the entrance, ready to leave. But they were not the same beings who had entered the building so long ago. Krex looked different. His armor was clean but simple. His weapons were few. Most importantly, his eyes had changed. Where once there had been the hard stare of a killer, now there was something softer. Something that looked like understanding. Paul Mitchell stood with them at the entrance. He had grown older during their time together, but his eyes were still kind. Are you ready to go home? Paul asked. Krex nodded slowly. As ready as we can be. But I do not think home will feel the same. No, Paul agreed. It will not. You have changed, and change cannot be undone. Captain Rex Newell carried a small bag with him. Inside were pictures and recordings from the families they had met, letters from the children whose parents had died, drawings made by students in Danny. Stone's class, will they understand? Rex Newell asked. Will our people believe what we have learned? Some will, Paul said. Others will not. But that is how change begins. With a few people who see the truth and share it with others. The Scar Shuttle arrived to take them home. As they walked toward it, Lieutenant Vaxton stopped and looked back at the memorial wall. It was finished now, covered with thousands of stones. Each stone bore the name of someone who had died at Haven's Rest. I will remember, he said quietly. I will remember all of them. The journey back to Scarspace took 3 weeks. During that time, Krex and his warriors talked about what they would say to their people. How do you explain to a culture of warriors that their greatest enemy was not another army, but their own ignorance? When they arrived at the Scar homeworld, crowds gathered to welcome them home. The Hegemony Council expected to hear stories of human weakness and cowardice. They expected their general to return with plans for conquering Earth. Instead, they got something they had never seen before, a broken warrior, who spoke of peace. The council meeting took place in the Great Hall of Victory. This was where the Scar celebrated their military triumphs. The walls were covered with weapons taken from defeated enemies. The floor was made from the bones of creatures the Scar had hunted to extinction. Councillor Graktar, the oldest member of the Hegemony, spoke first. General Krex, report on the human defenses. How many ships do they have? What are their weaknesses? Krex stood before the assembled counselors. These were the most powerful warriors in Scar society, men who had conquered worlds and enslaved entire species, men who measured strength by the number of enemies they had killed. Honored counselors, Krex began, I have learned something about the humans that you need to know. They are not weak. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Murmurs of excitement rippled through the hall. This was what they wanted to hear, but not in the way you think, Krex continued. They are dangerous because they can change you. They can make you see the truth about yourself. And once you see that truth, you can never go back to being what you were before. The murmur stopped. Counselor Graktar leaned forward. Explain yourself, General. Speak clearly. Krex took a deep breath. The humans captured my warriors and me. But they did not torture us. They did not hurt us. Instead, they showed us the faces of the people we killed. They told us their stories. They made us understand that our victims were not just numbers in a battle report. They were individuals with families and dreams and hopes. So, Counselor Vecron asked, what does it matter? The weak die so the strong can live. This is the natural order, is it? Krex asked. Or is that just what we tell ourselves to feel better about the killing? The hall erupted in angry voices. How dare their general question the fundamental beliefs of Scar society? How dare he suggest that their enemies had value beyond their usefulness as slaves or resources? Counselor Graktar slammed his staff on the floor. Silence! He roared. General Krex, the humans have clearly damaged your mind with their psychological tricks. You will be removed from command and sent for rehabilitation. Wait, a voice called from the back of the hall. Captain Rexnul stepped forward. Honored counselors, I was with the General on Earth. I saw what he saw. I learned what he learned. And I believe we must listen to his words. You two have been compromised, Graktar declared. Then so have I, Lieutenant Vaxtham said, stepping beside Rexnul. And I, said Lieutenant Crowanex. One by one, all 17 of the returned warriors stood together. They faced the entire Hegemony Council, no longer as conquerors, but as beings who had learned the cost of conquest. You are all relieved of duty, Graktar announced. Guards, arrest these traitors. But something unexpected happened. The guards hesitated. Many of them had served under Krex for years. They had followed him into battle and trusted him with their lives. Now he stood before them changed, but still their leader. Before you arrest us, Krex said, let me show you something. He pulled out a small device and activated it. The hall filled with images from the Center for Galactic Understanding. Pictures of the children who died at Haven's Rest, videos of families talking about their lost loved ones, recordings of Margaret Stone telling the story of her son Danny. This is what we did, Krex said as the images played. These are the people we killed, not soldiers, not warriors, just people living their lives. The hall fell silent. Many of the guards lowered their weapons. Some of the younger counselors looked uncomfortable. They had expected to see images of human military installations or weapon factories. Instead, they saw hospitals, schools, and homes. Emma Wilson, age 5, Krex said as a picture of a smiling little girl appeared on the screen. She loved to draw pictures of flowers. She wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. She died in our bombing of the children's hospital. Robert Chun, age 34. He was a farmer who grew food for the entire colony. He had 3 children who will never see their father again because of our attack. Sarah Davis, age 16. She played music and wrote songs about the beauty of the universe. She dreamed of traveling to distant worlds and meeting new species in peace. One by one, Krex showed them the faces of every person who died at Haven's Rest. He told their stories. He spoke their names. He made the council see them as individuals rather than statistics. When the presentation ended, the hall was completely quiet. Some of the counselors were staring at the floor. Others looked shaken. A few of the guards were actually crying. This is what the humans call the Great Learning, Krex said. They learned that every life has value. Every death has meaning. Every choice has consequences. And they taught us the same lesson. Counselor Graktar stood up slowly. His face was hard, but his eyes showed uncertainty. What are you asking us to do, General? Abandon our way of life? Become weak like the humans? No, Krex replied. I'm asking us to become strong in a different way. Strong enough to admit when we are wrong. Strong enough to change when we need to change. Strong enough to value life instead of just taking it. And if we refuse? Graktar asked. Then you will make the same mistake I made, Krex said. You will attack the humans thinking they are weak. And they will capture you. And they will show you the truth about yourself. And that truth will change you whether you want it to or not. The debate that followed lasted for days. Half the council wanted to execute Krex and his warriors as traitors. The other half wanted to hear more about what they had learned on Earth. The hegemony began to split apart as different factions argued about the future of their society. News of the split spread throughout Scarspace. Some worlds declared independence from the hegemony. Others demanded immediate war with Earth. Still others asked to send their own delegations to the Center for Galactic Understanding. The recordings from Krex's presentation were smuggled out of the council chambers and spread across the galaxy. Other species saw the images from Haven's Rest. They heard the stories of the human victims. They learned about the center and what it represented. Within 6 months, 3 other major galactic powers had contacted Earth asking to send diplomatic missions. Not to negotiate treaties or trade agreements, but to understand how the humans had achieved something that seemed impossible. They had turned their greatest enemies into their strongest advocates for peace. The Aquatic Syndicate was the first to send representatives. Ambassador Thalanox arrived at the center with a delegation of military commanders. They had been planning their own attack on human space, but Krex's presentation had made them reconsider. We want to understand, Thalanox said to Paul Mitchell. We want to know how you changed the Scar without breaking them. We did not change them, Paul replied. We simply showed them the truth. They changed themselves. The Crystalline Collective sent Elder Counselor Vexani herself. She spent 3 months at the center learning about human history and philosophy. When she returned home, she disbanded the Collective's war fleets and began converting their weapons factories into schools. Even the Vorthan Empire, still recovering from Ambassador Zektar's warnings years earlier, sent a formal delegation. They wanted to establish a permanent embassy at the center. Back on the Scar homeworld, General Krex established a school based on the principles he had learned on Earth. It was small at first, just a few dozen young Scar,